Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. My name is Christina Taylor. I am one of the members of the admissions team here at GW with the Graduate School of Education and Human Development. As I said before, the chat is being managed by members of my team, or my teammates. So feel free to drop in there any questions that you have while we are going through the presentation. There will be time for Q&A at the end. But if you have any like pressing questions, feel free to drop them there. Um, and so to get started, this session is entitled How to Apply, and it's specifically for our international students. We have this session set up because our international student application process is a bit different than the process for our domestic students. And so we wanted to provide you all with as much information as possible to submit a completed application and so that you know exactly what's needed to move forward. As you'll see noted on the screen, Stephanie Spar is our Director of Admissions. And so if you have questions in reference to getting in contact with her or needing more information, we will provide you with her contact information as well as mine, just in case you need it. So as a quick agenda or like overview of what we'll discuss, we'll go through the types of students that should apply for our programs. We'll provide you all with some advice on submitting the online application and what that looks like. As a note, the application fee has been waived, so feel free to start your application whenever you're ready. We'll also go through the steps to complete your application, including the documents that are required, and then some of the documents that are required specifically for international students, like your transcript eval and the English proficiency materials. And then lastly, we'll open it up with some tips for success, and then we'll do Q&A. So to begin, the question that we're often asked is what type of student is GSEHD looking for? And so again, GSEHD is an acronym for our Graduate School of Education and Human Development. And so we are looking for students who, one, want to make a difference in their career field of choice. And so I'm sure, as many of you know, there are quite a few programs that we offer here. And so with those programs, we also touch quite a few different industries. And so we are looking for students who want to make a positive difference in those industries, regardless of what the industry may be. We're also interested in students whose professional goals match the education that we provide. And so, just like this session, amongst some of our other events and sessions that we have, we try to offer students as much information as possible and try to create a well-rounded experience for students from start to finish. And so, we want students whose professional goals match our energy and efforts in reference to creating opportunities for others in the industries that they're interested in. We are also interested in students who do well in rigorous academic programs. And so what that looks like depends on the student and the program. However, we do want to ensure that all of the students who apply and are ultimately accepted into our programs can, for lack of better words, keep up. And so we do encourage our students, if you have questions around what that might look like for your program, feel free to reach out to us. As you'll note, on the screen, you'll see at the bottom that some of our programs do have prerequisites. And so what we will encourage you to do throughout your application process, but especially if you're in the beginning of your process, is to review the website to see what those prerequisites are. For some of our programs, the prerequisites are pretty straightforward in terms of just requiring a bachelor's degree if you're applying for a master's program. And then for some of our other programs, there are specific requirements around what degree your previous degree may have been in, or things of that nature. And so again, if you have questions around what that looks like, you definitely want to reach out to your admissions counselor or reach out to one of us in the chat if you have questions. And so we have included here in our presentation screenshots of what the application process looks like. So on our website, it looks literally just like the screen here. You'll see at the top in the right-hand corner the option to click apply. There's an apply button. And then once you click it, you'll be taken to the next screen, which is going to be the student portal where you'll sign up for your application and you'll begin your application process. So as you're signing up, of course, there will be sections that are required for you to fill out, like your first name, last name, and email address. Once you fill those sections out, you'll be prompted to go to the next screen. With the next screen, what that looks like is you'll click the button that says start a new application. Just as a note, once you start your application, you are able to save it and exit if you need to. And what you will do is if you need to refer back to your application, you'll click the apply button again, but you'll sign in. And when you sign in, your application will pop up. So again, if you have questions about that, we can walk you through what that looks like. But these screenshots are pretty straightforward in reference to showing you what your screen will show. Once you click start a new application for the first time when you're starting your application, you'll be prompted to go to the next screen, which is the screen that asks you kind of some identifying details in reference to the program that you're applying for. So for the field that reads school, you want to make sure that you select Graduate School of Education and Human Development. For the type of program you're interested in, you want to make sure you select graduate. And then in terms of field of study or the degree, that information is going to be specific to the program you're applying for. And again, this information is also listed on our website. And if you have questions about that, we can definitely answer them. I definitely want to note that when you are filling out this information, if you are unsure about that, about filling out any of these forms, you want to connect with our admissions team first, so that way we can make sure your application is filtered to the right fields and make sure that it's filtered to the right programs. In reference to steps to complete the online application, so again, the application fee has been waived, so you can start your application whenever you're ready. Once you go through all of the initial steps in terms of signing into the portal and creating your logging in with your last name, first name, and your email address, you'll be prompted to go through a few pages that list documents that are needed for your application. So as we see listed here, you will need a statement of purpose, you will need a copy of your resume, and then you'll need letters of recommendation. As a note, there are some programs whose statement of purpose um, requirements are listed on their website as a prompt. And so what we want to encourage you to do is to make sure that your statement of purpose answers all of the prompt questions that are listed on our website. With the letters of recommendation, you want to make sure that if your program requires one letter, you include the contact information for one recommender. If your program requires two letters, you want to make sure that you include the contact information for two recommenders. And if your program happens to require three letters, you want to make sure you include the contact information for three recommenders. What will happen is as you complete your application and once you hit submit, your recommenders will be prompted to submit the letter of recommendation through our electronic system. We do want to note that letters of recommendation must come from your recommender. They cannot come from you. And if your recommender is having any issues with submitting the letter, you can have them reach out to your admissions counselor and they can help provide you with information on where they can submit the letter kind of outside of the portal. In reference to steps to complete the online application specific to international students. So there is a transcript evaluation that is required. We prefer and require evaluations to come from NACES member organizations. We do have a website that we can send you all with a link that will show you all the organizations, excuse me, that are NACES members. And that information will be really important for you to have because if it does not come from one of those member organizations, we cannot accept it. So again, if you have questions about that, we can discuss that in depth towards the end of the conversation, but you just want to keep that in mind as you're gathering your documents for your application. The same goes for the English proficiency materials. That information is also going to be listed on that same website, and we have more details in reference to what that looks like for students. As an overall note, we are unable to waive any of these requirements, and so if you have questions about what that looks like for you, or if you have questions about um, what this may look like for your application and it's specific to you, we can take that offline towards the end of the conversation. But just as a general note, we're unable to waive them at this time. In terms of writing what we consider a winning statement of purpose, like I mentioned before, you want to start with checking to see if your program has a specific prompt. Again, that information will be listed on the website for your program under the drop down for apply now in terms of academic requirements. You want to make sure that your statement of purpose is 1 to 2 pages or specific to the word count that is listed on the website. And again, not to beat a dead horse, but we just want to make sure that you all know that some of our programs do have specific requirements. And if your statement of purpose does not meet those requirements, that will be marked against you in your application process. So we just want to make sure that you all are aware that that does exist. If your program that you're interested in does not list on the website a prompt that gives you freedom to write uh, in a way that you feel is most that you feel most comfortable doing, we can give you some suggestions on what to write in reference to statement of purpose programs that don't have a prompt. However, if your program does have a prompt, it is suggested that you write to what they are asking you to write. In reference to the last two bullets in terms of like checking spelling and grammar, again, you want to make sure that your statement of purpose reflects your writing abilities and your writing skills. You also want to make sure that it is reflective of your ability to pursue graduate level work. And so again, making sure that you check for spelling and grammar, and the overall general essay structure is going to be really important. And last but not least, what we suggest for all of our students to do with their statement of purpose is to explain why you want to join that specific program at GW and what your goals are for that degree. And so, whether your statement of purpose has a prompt or not, that information is really important. And what I share with my students is you want to use it as an opportunity to connect the dots for faculty so that they can get to know you a little bit off paper and really understand why you're pursuing the degree that you're pursuing. Towards the bottom of this screen, you will see an example of what the prompt may or may not look like for your particular program. Again, it will include the word count. It will also include bullets or sections or questions that faculty would like to see answered in your statement of purpose. And so, as you see, there is an a B, and a C option in reference to what they like to see in the prompt or what they like to see in the statement of purpose. And so this is an example of a prompt that you will see. However, I definitely want to reiterate that that is program specific. So you want to check your admission, you want to check your program website prior to submitting your statement of purpose to make sure that there is a prompt or that there's not a prompt, and then make sure that your statement of purpose meets the requirements as listed on the website. In reference to preparing a great resume, we have pretty flexible requirements in reference to the resume. There is no required format or page limit, but we do have some suggestions that we have found to be helpful for all of our students. You want to make sure that you include your educational, professional, and volunteer experiences. There are plenty of resume templates online that you all can use as a guide to creating a resume. You also want to make sure that you include the start and end dates of your experiences. And then finally, you want to make sure you save your resume as a PDF to protect your formatting. Now, again, these are suggestions. You are not required to do any of these things. However, in creating an application that really shines and really kind of sets you apart from other students, these are things that we have found to be really beneficial for all of our prospective students in the application process. With your letters of recommendation, what we suggest to all of our students is to have 1 to 2 people, or maybe even three, in mind prior to starting your application. You want to make sure that you connect with them prior to even putting their names in the fields in your application. And so, for what a lot of our students do is they connect with their recommenders in advance just to let them know that they're applying to the program. Sometimes they will send them program information so that the recommenders have some context to writing the letters of recommendation. And then once you actually are ready to submit your application, you want to double check on the program website to make sure that your recommender meets the requirements for that letter recommendation requirement. So what that looks like is for some of our programs, one of the strongly suggested requirements is going to be recommenders that are academic. These are folks who have been professors of yours or prior teachers, people who can speak to your experiences in the classroom. For other programs, we have suggestions where there's a strong suggestion that your recommender be someone from professional spaces. So someone that has either supervised you or someone that you have worked with or someone that can speak to your experiences and behavior in professional settings. And so you want to make sure that whatever recommenders you have listed can speak to one or either or. And you want to make sure that if your program has a requirement for your recommender, that your recommender that you're listing meets that requirement. And then once you have a conversation with your recommender and you confirm that they will be able to submit your letter of recommendation, you will input their information in your application. And so once you get to that page, the application will ask you for their last name, their first name, and their email address. And then once you submit your application, they will automatically receive an email from our system triggering them to upload the letter of recommendation into the link that is provided. And again, if they have any questions about that or they need assistance, you can have them reach out to your admissions counselor directly. As a note, we want to make sure that we emphasize that your recommendation letter has to come directly from your recommender. It cannot come from you. And so if they need assistance, they can reach out to us directly. One of the things that we definitely want to suggest and highlight to you all is to make sure your recommender writes the letter on letterhead and signs it. Now, again, this is not a requirement. For some people, that has not been an option, but it is a strong suggestion that we have for all of our students. And then when you're having a conversation with your recommender about when to submit the letter of recommendation, you want to emphasize that they need to do it as soon as possible. And just kind of as an FYI for you all as prospective students, your application cannot move forward from the initial phases into the review stage until we receive all of your documents, and that includes letters of recommendation. So if your application is due on June the 15th and you submit it on June the 15th and your recommender does not submit the letter of recommendation until June the 20th, your application will be viewed or considered late because we're waiting for those documents. So you just want to make sure that your recommenders are aware of the timelines and deadlines that are in place and make sure that they are able to abide by those dates. And again, if they have questions or if they need assistance, they can reach out to you to reach out to us, or they can reach out to us directly. With the NACES transcript evaluations, so this is going to be a hot topic for a lot of our international students because we are quite specific about what we require in reference to your transcript evaluation. So it must be evaluated by an accredited NACES member. And again, we have an international student website where the NACES accredited member organizations are linked. And we can provide that information to you all. I'm sure it's probably in the chat by now, but we can provide that information to you all as well. The evaluation needs to be a course by course evaluation, and it needs to be fully detailed. So it needs to include course titles, credit hours, your grades, your GPA, the United States degree equivalency, and the date of degree conferral. This is going to be really important because without this information, we cannot use the document. And so, for this organizations that we have listed on the website that are NACES members, they automatically do this. And so you just want to make sure that you are choosing an organization that one fits your budget, but also make sure that it does exactly what you need it to do because we would hate to have to um, request the evaluation again. The transcript evaluation should be official, which means it has to be sent directly from the NACES member to our admissions office. We cannot accept unofficial evaluations to move your application forward. So again, as I mentioned, with the application deadlines that are coming up, if you have an application deadline that is, let's say, June the 15th, and we don't receive your documents until July 1st, we would not be able to send your application to review by faculty until after all of the documents have been received. So it wouldn't be able to be sent until after the July 1st date. We do not require the transcript from the school itself, only the transcript evaluation. And if you have questions about what that looks like, we can definitely have that conversation offline, and provide you with more information and more details. And what we try to encourage all of our students to do is, as soon as you know that you're interested in applying for our programs, we want you to go ahead and move forward with requesting your transcript evaluation because it can take up to 8 weeks, which is about 2 months. And so again, just to, further encourage you all, you want to start the process as soon as possible because you never know what could happen in reference to things being sent in the mail. And then also with some of the organizations, they may have an influx of students requesting evaluation, so things may take a little longer. And so you want to make sure you give yourself enough time prior to your deadline to get all of your documents in um, prior to the deadline. And again, we cannot move your application forward from the application phase to review until we have received all the required documents. With the English language proficiency, as you can see here, there are quite a few stipulations around the proficiency as well. And so, what that looks like is if you are an applicant who does not have a degree conferred from the United States, Canada, Australia, Ireland, New Zealand, or the United Kingdom, you will be required to submit proof of English proficiency via an oral testing service. So, we have listed there three options. Most of our students do Duolingo because it's a lot more cost effective and it's a bit faster. And so if you have additional questions about what that looks like, we can definitely answer those towards the end of the presentation. But just to kind of go over what the screen shows, the test must be taken within 2 years of your intended term of entry. So if you're interested in fall of 25, we would have needed you to take the test from between fall of 23 and now. Anything taken before fall of 23 would not be able to be accepted, unfortunately. The minimum required scores are listed here. They're pretty straightforward in reference to what we need from you all in reference to those scores. If you don't meet the required English language test scores noted, then you will be required to register for an English you will be required to register for an English for academic purposes, course during your first semester at GW. And so again, you just want to make sure that you are working to meet those scores if you need to. And then if you have additional questions, we can answer those. But if you're unable to meet the score, then taking the EAP course would be required your first semester at GW. Um, yeah. And then in reference to financial aid, so international students must have a green card to be eligible for U.S. federal financial aid. Students holding an F1, F2, or F3 or other visas can qualify for institutional aid, but only after taking 30 credits at GW. And so what that looks like is to answer general questions. So yes, as an international student, as long as you have a green card, you are eligible for federal financial aid. However, in terms of aid that is offered specifically from GW, the university, you're only able to qualify for that after taking 30 credits. So that looks like usually um, after your first or maybe even second, depending on how many courses you're taking, um, semesters here at the school. So you would not be eligible your first semester for institutional aid. For the merit scholarships that we offer internally to GSHED, all international students are eligible for that merit scholarship. What that looks like is in your application, there will be a question that asks you if you want to be considered for merit scholarships or for funding. You will check yes, and then once your application is fully submitted and we've received all of your documents and we have moved you from the application phase to review phase, during the review phase, you will also be reviewed for the merit scholarships that are internal to GSHIT, our school within the university. Unfortunately, at this time, we are unable to offer full funding for any of our students as international or domestic. And so what that looks like is there will be an opportunity to receive some funding, but we do strongly encourage you to look for scholarships and funding opportunities in other places, along with what we can offer you internally. And again, if you have questions about that or what that looks like, we can answer those at the end. I will say that a lot of our international students have a lot of questions around graduate assistantships and what that looks like here at GW. So, for master's students, graduate assistantships are not currently available. For our doctoral students, They are available on a first come, first served basis and by faculty request. So it is not guaranteed each semester that they will be available or they will be an option for you or for your program. It really does depend on what the faculty request is. We do have an Office of Graduate Student Assistantships that we can provide you with their information for more information or if you have questions, but that's not going to be housed within our GSHED department. And so, last but not least, we will leave you with some tips in reference to your application process. If you want to scan the QR code on the screen, that will also take you to some more information. But in your application, again, you want to make sure that if you're interested in funding or scholarships, you want to make sure that you indicate that in your application. So again, there will be a question that asks you if you're interested in being considered. You want to make sure that you check yes or check the box. We also encourage students to, review your options while you are determining what program is the best fit for you. However, you will only be able to apply for one program at a time. So, as you're having conversations with your admissions counselor and reviewing our website and our program websites, you definitely want to make sure you look at all of your options. However, you can only apply for one program at a time. And then if you have questions about connecting with any of us, feel free to jot down the website that is listed here. And with that being said, I will segue into our Q&A and we can just kind of go from there. So thank you all for your time.